My latest book, The Story That Must Not Be Told, is about an elderly widower living by himself in a high-rise apartment in Madras. He befriends a young boy who works for him, and through him finds out about the lives of people who are not like him. That is, this boy living with his family in a slum next to the high-rise apartment, and he gets involved in their lives through this boy. And as the story moves in and out of the slum and in and out of the high-rise apartment, we begin to ask the question of how people like ourselves who have everything can help people who do not have anything. And are we really able to help them? Is the compassion we show, the little kind deeds that we do for them, are they really enough? That's what the book is about. I am a doctor by profession, and I have worked amid situations. In fact, most of my work is among people who are either in rural areas or very small towns, and struggling migrant labor, construction workers. These are the people I have treated a lot. Most of my patients belong to these groups. So it evolved from having seen people live their lives like this, who have been my patients, whose lives I have seen very intimately and closely. So I can say that although the story itself is imagined, both the protagonist, the widower Simon J. Sukumar, he and the other characters, they are imagined, but they also have something, some germ in the real people I have met and seen and know quite well. I don't start with a story, I don't start with any pattern in mind. I usually start with characters. And the character of Simon J. Sukumar, the widower living alone, that came to mind. And from there I just imagined his life, and I imagined this young boy called Velu who works for him, and then his family, and then Simon's family. So the whole story grew out in that way, and then it went into the slum. And when it went into the slum, it must have, my actual real life experiences must have helped. I was also inspired, as I have shown in my acknowledgements. I mean, the book is dedicated to two people. One of them is Kalpana Sharma, who has written a wonderful book on Dharavi. And I was really, the book and the way she describes the life in the slum, that really affected me a lot, although I read it a long time ago when it came out. But it seemed to mirror the type of things I see among people who I have worked with. So her story really inspired me, when I wrote the book. I'm sure, because in hindsight I realized that it has influenced me, so I have dedicated the book to her. It is always something that has troubled me throughout my life. It still troubles me, and a lot of Simon in a way is myself. The fact that all the little things we try to do, how little it is, and how in many ways impractical some of the things we do for them. We think we are helping, we think we are doing a lot in our own little way, but is it really adequate, and is it what they want? That is the question Simon always asks in the book, is what do those people think of me? What do they think of me? He dare not ask them the question. I wouldn't dare ask somebody a question like that. That what do you really think of us, going about in cars, living the posh life, or whatever it is, but it is different from theirs. What do you feel like? What does it feel like to have nothing and to see just next to you people who have everything? I dare not ask them that question, because I feel they must have so much hatred, or there must be so much anger in them. And that anger comes out in the characters in the book. As you go into the slum and meet the characters and what happens to Simon, he goes with such good intentions, but they don't always take it as good intentions, So that conflict of what they perceive and what Simon perceives, he wants to do good, but it is not always, because there are people there who understand the superficiality of our goodness. They can see it, you know. So that is what the conflict is about. I guess it is only that if we can at least think about it, that is a start. Because you ask 100 people here, I think 80 of them will say that they do care about what happens, that they do help their maid, or they do help somebody's child, you know. We all want to do some little acts of kindness. But how far are we going in contrast to the way we are progressing? So these are the questions, and how, if we do not think of it carefully now, I think there is going to be tremendous repercussions. It's actually a story that must be told, but I think a lot of people don't like to hear this story because it makes us very uncomfortable, because it looks at us, you know, in a very at our angularities about our goodness. And so it is really a play on the words that actually it should be told, but a lot of people don't want to hear it. When his house is built, he feels so grateful to the workers, because he's looking at them and he says, oh gosh, so many people have worked so hard, I would like to give each of them a box of sweets, you know. So he tells the contractor, and he finds out there are about 40 or 50 people who have actually built the house. So he calls all of them and he buys these boxes of sweets and gives each of them. And when he gives, some of them just look blankly at him and take it, some touch his feet or do this, and he's somehow at the end of that he's disappointed, and as they go away they just turn their backs and walk off. Some sit down and they start eating the sweets, you know. So he's thinking, I mean, in his mind he actually expected lots more from them, gratitude. So this is what happens to us when we do things. We really think we've done a wonderful thing and we really want lots of gratitude or recognition for what we have done. But in some ways, why should that person feel so? Because we've lived off them, you know. I think, I mean, in hindsight, I will see similarities. In hindsight, like I have also in my acknowledgement mentioned some children, you know, in the book, and they're all children I know. Somewhere at the end, I have mentioned some names. Yes. My thanks to Ujjwal, Lakkamma, Rubina, Mayuri. I've mentioned a few children, you know, and they're all children I know. So it was just, you know, I suppose that shows that I have taken from real life. The only thing I'd like to add is, for me, writing is all about, I mean, I use in hindsight, I use a lot of my experience as a doctor. But for me, it's all about the characters, and the story comes out from the characters. So I never ever have a planned book or a planned story. I just love living in other people's heads. I love, you know, finding out what their thoughts are, and I love to use that and then see how it goes, and then the story comes out. Yeah.